Well, it is day 2 here in Las Vegas at CES 2026, the Pure Signal podcast on the ground, reporting to you live of all the happenings and all the goings on in the technology and innovation space here in Vegas. Myself, Ryan Medellin, alongside our North American CEO, Kevin Erickson, and of course, our Chief Innovation Officer, Jake Carter. If yesterday was a busy day, gentlemen, today was full steam ahead. It seemed like it was a lot of ground covered and a lot of thoughts and opinions being shared. Would love to just get initial thoughts and reactions out of day 2 from you both.
Well, I'll start. So day 2, I'm going to make sure it's day 2 of Pure Signal. I don't believe it's day 2 of CES. I think there might be a few more extra days, day 3. But yeah, as you said, it's interesting. It's always when we come to these events, like you're interacting with what you're learning, who you're meeting with. For me today, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more maybe to my day job and spending time. We had a really good launch midday. That was really cool to see. That was more associated with the Omnicom and some of our clients, and interacted with some certain folks. We all have dinners tonight with different people that we're going to tonight. So that part, but a little less for me on the actual innovation elements of that. But I'm learning from people that are going out there. So Jake, you represented, at least from this couch, who actually did something real today, according to CES, besides trying to make sure helping us pay for your experience at CES today. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
What did you experience and learn today?
Well, I think you're right. Like, you did the real work. I got to go play and look at all of the fun things. Today was really interesting. I mean, there, like, to your point, Ryan, it was jam-packed. So for anyone who has not been to CES, it basically takes over the entire city, which is amazing, but it also means that everything is really spread out. So you've got exhibits in this hotel, at the convention center. And so one of the things that I learned today was, don't let Kevin entice you into a 30-minute walk to a venue first thing in the morning, because then you can go walk through all the venues and you're just dead on your feet. But no, today was a lot of fun. So I went over to the Foundry, which is one of the new installations this year. It's kind of a breakout. So this year they broke out all of the quantum and AI, or at least a lot of the quantum and AI, into its own exhibit or own floor, and that was really entertaining. NVIDIA had a huge installation that we can maybe get into a little bit. But what was really interesting there is they did a lot of like real life use cases of how are people using NVIDIA GPUs to power AI solutions, and a ton. Well, it feels like a ton of quantum computing suppliers who are there showing off their wares and how they're starting to use that. And then to your point, Kevin, we had I think we spent this afternoon in more of the media advertising space, hearing about some of the new products that are coming down the pipe in the world of content and media and advertising.
That's cool. Now with NVIDIA, every time all those different providers are talking about quantum, they're saying we will take our part of that. We will take our part of that. So thank you, Jensen. Thanks you. I think it was interesting. You go back, we went for a little bit of walk. It wasn't too big of a walk. I mean, but 30 minutes, but it's actually kind of part of what the CES experience was, because we were walking and we were connecting, talking a ton about what we were learning, seeing, and we made the mistake of stopping for coffee, and then as may happen, we didn't get out of the coffee. We continued to really kind of work through a lot of this stuff, but really it's based on what we're seeing. I mean, it's for us, we're thinking about how you serve our clients, how we innovate, how we change what we do. Some of the things that we're learning here are different things that are opportunities for that. But just, I think that's, again, it goes back to the themes for what's so great about the start of the year. It's a chance to think about the business, a chance to work with or meet with our clients. I mean, the afternoon again, not only do we have some opportunity to think about, you actually were really in scene, but we were having some of those presentations. I was with some of our team at a different element, just trying to think about what's the great way that we can kind of, process and market and have a chance to be able to kind of take our clients' new experiences, which is really fun to be able to have that be here. And again, I'll say one thing going back, really what I talked about last night or yesterday, I'm still a bit, it's just interesting, my vision of CES, I think about the robots and the AI and all that kind of consumer product element. And it's just been really interesting to me just to see how much this really fun business conversation is happening throughout. And, so I don't know if, again, that's just this experience or it's changing or it's just my own curated experience, but it's kind of really a fun place because it's not about, it's about growth and innovation, but you're still doing it in the context of what they're trying to do versus what is the art possible.
Yeah, it leads me to my next point, Kevin, because I think it's a super interesting thing that, this podcast is about technology and innovation, but there's also a piece and element too that you're able to provide from like the standpoint of leading a business. And, it's very important. I think we would all agree the value of being here and being in person and being present and meeting the people that we're meeting is exponentially worth it. But in your role, when you're leading a company and you're also trying to figure out and making sure hey, I need to be present here, but I want to make sure things are being taken care of back in the actual like day-to-day of what's happening right now outside of, this forward-looking vision that we're seeing here at CES. Like, what is that like for you?
Yeah, well, it's not only also like what's back at the shop, so to speak, but even our team here. One of the things I'm very, very fortunate. Like we got a great team of people that we work with, and so I feel very fortunate. Like I never worry about, hey, I'm not there to do something that things aren't going to happen. And thankfully that's not an issue. But what I like is that my rift off what you're saying is that I love that we can have clarity for what people do. So even here, and my role here is slightly different than Jake's role here. Jake's our chief innovation officer. You're supposed to be interacting, working through that. So I think that's the part that gets exciting for me is that we're playing different parts and we're meeting with our clients and experience and R&D at different elements. Obviously a lot of the stuff is just start of the year, you're closing the books, you're kicking off next, it's all those normal stuff that every company. But I do think it's really important. Like it is a chance for us. I'm thinking a ton about how do we change how we organize, how we structure, where the expectations. So not simply say we're going to sell X, Y, and Z, but really how do we actually really rethink about running our business? We just spend a lot of time internally just thinking about how we sell, how do we encourage, how do we actually bring differentiated products and offerings to our clients. And so in a way that's relevant to the context of today. So again, those are all just normal. We do that, if you weren't here, we'd be doing that as well. But it is, just really thankful for the team that we have at Kudera that allows us to be able to do this. But it is interesting around and then going, that is, we all play different roles. And so you can't very few people can only be focused on one thing at one time. And such a challenge that.
Building on what you were saying, our team is geographically distributed. So one of the things that has been very fun is, yes, we get FaceTime, but we have a lot of people here that, we can spend time together in person that you don't always get. This afternoon was a lot of just kind of one-on-one meetings of folks that we don't always see in person, but spending a little bit of time in person. I find that quite rewarding.
I'm going to put you on the hot seat now because you mentioned use cases earlier in the conversation about when you were walking around and seeing all the different use cases. Part one of the question is the year of 2026, the year of use cases. Part two of that question is, it's very interesting, right? Because you can't just paint businesses with a broad stroke anymore. It's gotten very specific, and it seems like there's technology backing those very specific needs and wants.
You are absolutely correct in the observation. So from a use case standpoint, actually, I'll react to what you were saying first. Is this the year of the use case? I would say yes, and this is the year of the use case in the sense that this is the year where companies have to move beyond I'm experimenting with AI to I'm driving results with AI. And my add on that is it is also the year that I think we see the switch towards systematizing the use cases. We're going to see companies moving beyond I've done one thing to great, I'm driving that to scale. How am I building out the system to do that on a repeated basis? For me, this is just kind of the fun insights, takeaways from the show today. I mentioned NVIDIA. They had a really large installation, but some of the things that I thought were really interesting were, probably interesting just to me because I hadn't seen them before. So one installation that was looking at, okay, well, how are companies using their GPUs to go do digital twins? But in particular, the thing that I thought was interesting, I hadn't thought about use of digital twins before, was factory floors. So building out synthetic replicas of entire factories for the purpose of looking at preventive maintenance. So the basic idea was, hey, if I can go build a simulation of our factory, I can go simulate over time what parts are going to wear out. And then I can look at, okay, well, what do I need to do differently from an engineering standpoint? I thought that was really interesting. The other is a little more standard. I just hadn't thought of it before. There was some automotive stuff that I thought was really creative. So, you guys know when they're looking at building automobiles, they do the aerodynamic testing with wind tunnels. One of the use cases of digital twins was, well, can we go do that synthetically? So they had built out synthetic wind tunnels, and they were, testing, if you will, simulating the vehicles in the wind tunnels to find the coefficients of efficiency and how they could optimize that. So I thought that was really interesting as well.
Well, this is not about innovation here, and so this is a little random walk. So apologize, but I was tickled last week, or just interested last week. Yesterday, about innovation. The engineer, the product manager, had created the little arrow on the the gas tank passed away. And so what kind of went viral over the last couple of weeks, right? Because it got tweeted, Ford, sent that out. And it's just kind of interesting because you think about a simple little thing that had such an impact, and they were celebrating him and his achievements in his life. But it was really, to me, it was fascinating was outside of the that individual, and kind of cool that something that was a really random fact 30, 40 years ago, but like it was a memo to work through this. And then the speed of change, I've actually found myself drawn to the courage of someone to say something, the ability for the business to quickly adapt in a world where, in that sense, even more so today, as we're writing this up, you're talking about using GPUs, AI driven type of innovation, when back 30, 40 years ago, and that a change of model here was years, right? And so I think it's like inspiring for me, not necessarily that episode, but again, why we're here today. How do we help our companies think? What are we changing? So I think for me, around the era of the use case, I think I definitely agree. It's like, it's really, I think it's going to be the year of the outcome. One of the presentations we saw today too, is just someone who was talking about really the S curve of really the launch curve of the speed of what's happening and what's happened a year ago, and just around the uses of different, the power of the models in this particular case. And it's still usually, that was still, this scenario today was still primarily in probably an individual task, taking something minutes to hours, from hours and minutes to down to really short. But take that same structure now, how do you as a company harness that? And if you're able to reduce that element, and really how do you redeploy it? And that's the part that I think is going to be really a question for companies this year. It's not, what do you start to do? And is it just simply an efficiency gain where you're going to reduce your head count, change it, or where do you start to redeploy that? Like, that's the part that's going to be really fun in my mind. How do you reinvest in that? Could be an environment, going back to our Ford example, where you're actually, instead of just harvesting that as a win, you're actually reinvesting those savings into R&D or into other this, and you're serving your clients more if you're in our type of business. And I think it's going to be so exciting to think about how we do that, not just have it simply be a bottom line objective.
Well, I'll follow your tangent for just a second. I'm sorry, Ryan, but I saw the same. I know, right?
This is my goal. I want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions, and
Okay.
I nailed it. Shout out to me.
Well, I also saw the articles about the gentleman who had passed away, who had introduced the fuel indicator. And I don't know if you did this, Kevin, but I read the memo that he had published. And Ryan, if you haven't read it, it's basically his memo writing to senior leadership on, hey, I propose that we add this feature to the vehicles. Yep.
I'm not that young.
But there was a mock-up. Actually, the thing that jumped out to me, Kevin, just my own little, thinking on that was, I think it's a great insight. Clearly revolutionized the industry in terms of like that as a standard. The thing that's interesting to me is somebody got that memo and said, yes, this is a good idea. Let's go implement this. Which, coming back to the point that you were making today, I think there actually are relevant takeaways. We all know that innovation happens, at the fringes, but from a business domain, there is a challenge to seeing what's happening, recognizing that it's worth implementing and adopting it. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. Ryan is giving us a signal that we should be wrapping this
Music's
thing up.
playing.
Music is playing.
The pure signal.
But in the spirit of the pure signal, I heard two things that I thought were really interesting today that I think are worth sharing as potential signals. One was the notion of, for companies, in the same way that, in the last paradigm, if you will, you optimize for search. This notion of, hey, my goal as a company right now, from a marketing standpoint, is I still care about share of voice, but this notion of I care about share of prompt. I thought that was really interesting. I heard that phrasing today. As companies are entering this new paradigm, as search is going to this zero search world. I thought that was interesting. The other thing that I thought that was interesting today, and again, this is not a new thing, but I thought it was phrased well in terms of AI, was there was a talk today where they were talking about what are the themes for 2026. Back to your question of, is this theory of the use case? And there were a lot that were very standard of companies thinking about optimizing for the engines, thinking about how do you build the agentic systems. But one that I thought was really interesting was the idea that this is the year that we might move into a world of distrust, from a world of implicitly trusting to a world of implicitly distrusting. And I thought that had interesting implications for companies as well.
I feel like that's a good spot to, I don't want to cut off this great conversation, but the beauty of doing that is we leave the people wanting more. And if you want more, you know exactly where to get it. You got to tune into the Pure Signal podcast, because we're going to have a couple more episodes while we're here in Las Vegas. But for this one, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to get to bed early tonight. We're going to get some good rest, and we're going to hit the ground running for what tomorrow holds. So for myself, Ryan, for Kevin, for Jake, thank you so much for tuning into this one. We will see you soon.